Kevin, thank you so much for joining me today because would I be amiss in describing today's news as a massive deal?
Well, I think it certainly is transforming the Canadian competitive landscape because you're taking two independent carriers who have really almost no overlap in their network. And you're allowing Porter and Transat now to work together to serve all of Canadians in a way to fly across the Atlantic to Europe or certainly down into the sun destinations. And so the combining of these two networks really has the opportunity to serve all Canadians. And I think that's a great transformational transaction.
Right, but you had the code share agreement already from months ago.
Yeah, we have had this code share in place. It's been successful for us so far. But of course, anytime you do a joint venture, you get the opportunity to work together to increase destinations by improving connectivity across Toronto's Pearson and Montreal's Trudeau Airport. And so over time, what is today, some opportunities to connect will turn into some pretty significant coverage across Canada and the US to the transatlantic and then down into the sun destination. So it just takes that
Airline,
share and expands it significantly.
right, and airline JVs usually imply some type of rev share. Are we looking at that?
Yeah. So of course, when you enter these arrangements, you have ways that you're working on the revenue side, and that'll be true in this case as well. It also helps us to make sure that, again, our connections are highly competitive and our fares are highly competitive. And that's what's really critical. When you're just operating as a code share, it's not quite as simple as making sure the O&D is highly competitive. We now get to do that. That's to the benefit of consumers. That increases the competitive landscape significantly, and is why I think this is transformative for Canadians.
Yeah. Now, when you and I spoke at the beg your pardon, Mr. Porter's house party in Toronto, you made a point of focusing on network being the next stage of growth. Were you insinuating this network growth or your own or the combination thereof?
Well, when we chatted, I, of course, knew this was on its way.
Yeah.
But this is just one of many components, right? So from Porter's core network, we will continue to expand significantly in 2024. We're at aircraft now that we talk, we're at 24. When we talked last week, we were at 23. We just keep taking deliveries so quickly, but we'll be at 50 aircraft by the end of next year. And so our own network is going to continue to significantly expand within Eastern Canada and from Eastern Canada to Western Canada and the United States. So that's one element of network expansion. This JV with Air Transat only adds to the fact now that Air Transat's destinations are added to our own and will drive connectivity as well. But we've got some more partnerships in our back pocket I haven't told you about. So you'll start to see those in the coming weeks and months too. And all of that is expanding the network.
But it could just be between us, just right now. You could just tell me. I mean, it doesn't
No,
have to
but
go
I
anywhere.
like to keep it in my back pocket because then it causes you and me to talk again. It's great.
So there's also, of course, besides Air Transat, there's Transat Vacations arm, which is enormous. Well, they're growing, they're building back up again, let's say, post-pandemic. Are you participating in that program? Because you have your own vacation arm, but of course you don't necessarily cover the Caribbean and Mexico the way they do, or Europe.
That's right. So our Porter's Escapes product today is really an urban getaway product, which comes from the historic network of Porter and what we did at that time. We have yet to expand into the Caribbean and sun destinations. That will be much later in our growth phase. Certainly, as we start to fly into those sun destinations where package product is important, then our code share would then be available as flight options within Transat's package product. So it creates the opportunity for consumers to have additional flight options alongside the hotel options which Transat is offering.
Yeah. Now, Transat being a vertically integrated company also, of course, has the retail distribution channel through the Transat and Marlin retail offices and travel agents. Is that something that you will now take advantage of?
Well, yeah, I mean, our code share is available throughout all flight options as it relates to what they're selling through their distribution arms, whether they're travel agents or through their package product. So Porter will benefit as being part of flight options at the local level within a market where perhaps I'll use an example, Toronto to Cancun, for example, where eventually we may both fly and then we create options for consumers to have more flights. But then there's the connectivity as well. For example, of Winnipeg to Toronto and then on to Cancun, which now opens up Porter to that itinerary that historically
Right.
we may not have been a part of.
Yeah. Kevin, would you say that the gloves are off in a way with this agreement, this JV? Because to me, it now creates a partnership that has quite a lot of competitive clout. Because if I look at, for instance, the WestJet CEO at the moment, who is, making a lot of noise about being the biggest, the strongest, the largest distribution with the Sunwing, or the largest, I should say, lift, along with Sunwing. There's a big competitive market out there, and are you now in a position to compete with Air Canada and the WestJet Sunwing group?
Well, I think it's important. I want to just focus on Porter here for a moment, because obviously, as we think about Transat, Air Transat has a obviously a very different network for us than us. Our feed will contribute to their strategies, and I think it's important that they speak about that for themselves. But I'm happy to speak about what this means for Porter. I mean, we've been very clear that we are growing across Canada, we are growing across North America, and it has always been core to Porter's DNA that when we enter markets, especially large markets for us, we go in with frequency. That has been a signature of Porter's success in the past.
Okay.
It will continue to be that going forward. And so for our strategy, this feed helps to support that. As we think about our Western Canada routes, we will continue to add more frequency as a result of this relationship with Air Transat. But also as we are going into the US and we think of those core markets, it does the same. So as you say, are all gloves off? Again, we're thinking, Porter's thinking about our North American footprint. Anytime we add a significant partner to our network, it feeds our own, it allows us to grow, it allows us to add frequency. So we are here to win. And we've talked about that before.
So that's such an interesting point that you make, Kevin, about frequency being the core strategy for Porter.
Yeah, we've talked about that there's a lot of capacity coming into the market in Canada, but if you look at where that capacity is coming from, a lot of it is what is traditionally called an ultra low cost carrier model. And those are single frequency, daily at best, often several days a week. And that is limiting a certain economy traveler. And that's fine. It could be a great business model for carriers. But Porter's business model is we are disrupting the economy segment of the market. You and I have talked about the fact that half of that is business travelers. Business travelers want frequency. And so as we're going into markets and we're looking for leisure travelers, business travelers, premium economy travelers, frequency is what enables Porter to succeed. It helped us in our historic network. It's going to help us with our expansion.
Yeah.
Critical.
And it really was part of the DNA way back when, because you were flying in the triangle and that was your core market and that's who you were serving. And it was almost all business travelers, right? Who need to get to Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, whatever. They needed the frequency. So you've continued.
Yeah, the world has changed to business travel, as we know. Back in the pre-COVID times, we were 19 flights a day from Toronto, Billy Bishop to Ottawa.
Jeez. Wow.
That was our schedule that we offered business travelers. We were 13 to New York, 15 to Montreal. Now, business travelers have changed that a bit, but they still expect frequency, and we're going to deliver that for them.
And to the economy traveler, obviously, which is now a very big part of your focus. Congratulations. I think it's a major, major coup, and it's lovely to see, as I keep repeating, it's so lovely to see you grow from that very first flight in 2006. I'm so happy for you.
I'm looking forward to my first physical pink couch experience. Okay. So I look forward to that someday. So it's always great to see you, Nina. Thank you.
We'll get that on the books for January. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you.